This is Adrian. Adrian wasn't born powerful. He wasn't loud. He wasn't the guy people noticed when he entered a room. Growing up, he was invisible in the way quiet kids often are. He listened more than he spoke, not because he was wise, but because he was afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of being judged, afraid of being misunderstood. His father was a factory supervisor who believed respect was something you demanded. His mother believed respect was something you earned by being agreeable. Adrian learned early to choose the safer option. Smile, nod, explain yourself, make sure everyone understood you meant well. In his 20s, that instinct followed him everywhere, especially with women. On dates, Adrian asked questions non-stop. Where are you from? What do you do? What kind of music do you like? He thought curiosity was connection. He thought interest was attraction. Women smiled, answered, laughed politely, and then slowly faded away. Texts became shorter. Replies took longer. Eventually, nothing. Adrian told himself the usual lies. Wrong timing, wrong chemistry, bad luck. But the pattern was undeniable. The more he tried to be understood, the more invisible he became. One night, sitting alone at a quiet bar after another polite goodbye that led nowhere, Adrian noticed a man a few seats away. The man wasn't handsome in any obvious way. He wasn't talking much. He wasn't telling stories. Yet the woman with him leaned in closer with every pause. She laughed at things he didn't even say. When he went silent, she filled the space. Eager, animated, alive. Adrian felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest, confusion mixed with curiosity. He realized something uncomfortable. That man wasn't trying to win her. He wasn't trying to be understood. He was completely fine being unreadable. That night changed Adrian, not because he learned a trick, but because he felt the truth. Attraction wasn't built by effort, it was built by gravity. And gravity didn't come from chasing, it came from stillness. Adrian began experimenting quietly. He stopped explaining himself at work. He let misunderstandings breathe instead of rushing to correct them. He spoke less, but when he did, his words landed heavier. Conversations changed. People leaned in. Some resisted. Some tested him. But something had shifted. His presence felt different, even to himself. Months later, on another date, when silence fell, Adrian didn't panic. He didn't fill it. He held it. The woman looked at him, tilted her head, and asked, "What are you thinking?" Adrian smiled and said, "You'd be surprised how much people reveal when you let them." She laughed, a little nervous, a little intrigued. Walking home that night, Adrian asked himself a question that would echo through his life. What if power was never about being understood, but about being unshakable? Let me start with a truth most men never hear clearly enough to accept. The moment you try to be understood, you begin to give your power away. Not because understanding is bad, but because neediness is loud, even when disguised as kindness. Watch closely how attraction dies, quietly, politely, without drama. A man meets a woman he's drawn to. He wants connection, he wants chemistry, so he leans forward and starts asking questions, thinking he's building intimacy. But what he's really doing is positioning himself beneath her judgment. Every question asked too eagerly carries a silent message. Tell me who you are, so I can adjust myself accordingly. Tell me what you like so I can become it. Tell me what impresses you so I can perform. That isn't curiosity, that's negotiation. And the moment a woman senses that you're trying to earn her approval, something inside her closes, even if she doesn't know why. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this long before modern dating culture tried to sanitize it. He wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. Fear in this context doesn't mean intimidation, it means presence, it means consequence, it means weight. In attraction, the man who does not need validation creates tension, and tension is the raw material of desire. When a woman encounters a man who doesn't rush to explain himself, who doesn't scramble to be liked, she feels something unfamiliar. A quiet pull, a curiosity she can't name. He isn't predictable. He doesn't chase reassurance. He doesn't hand over his worth for inspection. And because of that, she begins to lean toward him instead of away. Here's what most men misunderstand. Attraction does not grow from comfort. Comfort is what keeps friends around. Attraction grows from curiosity, from unanswered questions, from the subtle imbalance between what is revealed and what is withheld. The less you rush to define yourself, the more space her imagination has to work. When you speak less, she listens more. When you stop asking for her story, she starts trying to place herself inside yours. That's how power shifts, not loudly, not aggressively, but invisibly. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. Think about your own experiences. When have you felt most drawn to someone? Was it when they explained everything or when you couldn't quite figure them out? Share your story in the comments. Not for validation, but because seeing these patterns reflected back can change how you move forever. And if you've ever felt like you were doing everything right but still being overlooked, send this to someone who needs to hear it. Not as advice, but as permission to stop performing. Now let's talk about silence, because silence terrifies men who confuse activity with value. Silence is uncomfortable. It exposes insecurity. That's why most men rush to fill it. They fear that if the conversation slows, interest will disappear. So they perform, they entertain, they audition. But silence doesn't kill attraction. It reveals it. When you allow silence to exist without anxiety, you control the frame. You signal that you are comfortable with yourself, with the moment, with uncertainty. Machiavelli believed that restraint was the mark of strength. A ruler who speaks too much loses authority. A man who reveals everything loses mystery. When you speak only when your words add weight, every sentence carries gravity. Silence forces attention, it creates space for interpretation, and interpretation keeps the emotional system engaged. She begins to wonder what you're thinking, why you're not rushing, why you seem unaffected. Hold eye contact a second longer than feels polite. Let her words settle before you respond, not as a tactic but as a posture. Stillness communicates confidence more loudly than cleverness ever could. And understand this deeply. The loudest men are often the weakest. They need to be seen to feel real. The calm man doesn't need confirmation. His presence does the work. Another rule most men violate without realizing it is the instinct to explain themselves. Overexplaining is the language of insecurity. Every justification is a quiet apology for existing as you are. When you defend every opinion, soften every edge, and clarify every misunderstanding, you teach people that your center is unstable. Confidence isn't loud. Sometimes it's a calm refusal to justify your stance. When challenged, the weak man panics and backtracks. The grounded man pauses. He doesn't rush to be agreed with. He doesn't fear being disliked. He knows who he is, and that knowledge is non-negotiable. Machiavelli warned that those who reveal too much lose control. Not because transparency is wrong, but because timing is everything. People respect what they cannot easily manipulate. When you are comfortable being misunderstood, you become immune to pressure. This doesn't mean being cold or dismissive. It means standing in your decisions without trembling. If you meant what you said, let it stand. If someone disagrees, let them. Respect is born where self-trust lives. Now let's shift to something even more misunderstood. Most men chase attention, believing that attraction is about being noticed. But attention without emotional impact is meaningless. Machiavelli never praised charm for its own sake. He praised strategy. Power isn't about who looks at you. It's about who feels something when they do. The man who is always available, always responsive, always validating becomes background noise. Familiar, safe, predictable. Attraction withers under predictability. Emotional control, not constant presence, is what creates magnetism. When she pulls back, don't chase. When she tests, don't react. When emotions rise, don't rush to fix them. Hold your center. Your calm becomes the anchor. You are not there to manage her feelings. You are there to show that yours are governed. This is where most men fail. They confuse niceness with leadership. They believe reassurance builds desire. But desire grows in the space between certainty and mystery. Control the emotional rhythm and you control the interaction. There's a reason unpredictability is intoxicating when paired with stability. She doesn't want chaos, she wants depth. She wants to feel that you are solid enough to remain unmoved, yet alive enough to create tension. Never reveal all your intentions. Not because honesty is wrong, but because immediacy kills intrigue. When you lay all your cards on the table too soon, you remove the need for curiosity. The mind disengages once the puzzle is solved. Machiavelli understood perception better than truth. Not lies, but timing. Reveal fragments. Let actions speak louder than declarations. Mystery is not manipulation when it's rooted in self-control. The man who speaks little gives his words value. The man who promises less surprises more. Predictability is comfortable, but comfort rarely inspires longing. Make her chase certainty without ever making her feel unsafe. There is a difference between intrigue and confusion. Intrigue invites pursuit. Confusion repels. Balance is everything. When you stop trying to make her understand you, she begins to study you. Your pauses become meaningful, your restraint becomes attractive, your calm becomes rare. And finally, emotional control. This is the foundation beneath everything else. A man ruled by reaction is easy to control. His buttons are visible, his patterns are obvious. Respect cannot survive there. Stoic philosophers understood this as deeply as Machiavelli did. Master yourself or someone else will do it for you. Emotional control doesn't mean suppression, it means choice. You decide when to engage and when to remain still. The man who does not react impulsively becomes untouchable. He listens while others erupt. He smiles where others argue. His stillness unsettles, not because it's cold, but because it's rare. A woman cannot respect a man she can emotionally shake at will, but she will never forget the one she cannot move. The most powerful man in any room is rarely the loudest. He doesn't demand attention, he bends the atmosphere without trying. People lean in because his silence carries pressure. Machiavelli wrote that a wise man appears virtuous while remaining unattached to virtue when strategy demands it. In modern terms, composure is the shield that protects your presence. Attraction is not born from words, it's born from the energy behind them. Presence is not something you fake, it's something you cultivate by mastering your reactions. So the next time you speak to a woman, don't flood the moment with questions, don't chase validation, let your calm lead, speak with intention, pause with confidence, let silence work. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's controlled pressure, and controlled pressure is power. In a world where men compete loudly for attention, the one who doesn't becomes unforgettable. He doesn't dominate the room, he centers it. And when you stop chasing control, something strange happens, you become it. The real secret was never in what you say, it's in what you can hold back,